Pack up your useless daughter because I do not want her anymore." Those harsh words echoed through the silent kitchen right before my husband laughed and cut the call on my mother. My name is Gemma Miller. And for over a decade I truly believed that loving a person meant standing by them through every single trial. I eventually realized that real devotion should never force you to shrink into nothingness, just to keep someone else happy. When I first met Preston, we were simple young adults dreaming of building a cozy future together. We crossed paths in Columbus while he worked as an entry-level sales representative for a regional freight firm, and I had just finished my business degree while taking an humble assistant job at a community foundation. Our initial apartment was tiny, with a clanking air unit and noisy neighbors, but we spent our evenings laughing on the couch. Preston constantly squeezed my hand during routine grocery runs, kissed my forehead before morning shifts, and thanked me for believing in him whenever job promotions went to other applicants. I genuinely expected us to grow old side by side, but steady financial success slowly transformed his character. It did not happen overnight, but rather through tiny compromises that gradually turned him into a cold stranger focused entirely on status. As his firm expanded, Preston began earning larger bonuses and attending fancy dinners with wealthy executives. His colleagues drove imported sports cars, while their partners carried expensive designer purses and discussed private country clubs. Preston began comparing our modest lifestyle to theirs, moving from harmless wishes to harsh daily criticisms about my lack of corporate ambition. The quiet respect we once shared turned into constant contempt, but I kept cooking dinner, paying bills, and caring for his ailing father because I believed that was what a loyal wife was supposed to do. The morning our marriage formally collapsed began under a gray sky with rain tapping against the kitchen glass. Preston walked into the room carrying a thick brown envelope, tossing it across the counter until it rested against my coffee cup. He told me in a flat voice that he had already signed the divorce papers and expected me to sign immediately so he could move forward. Looking at 12 years of shared memories wiped away so effortlessly made my chest ache, but I realized there was nothing left to salvage. The moment I set the pen down, Preston snatched the paperwork with a victorious grin and pulled out his cell phone. He dialed my mother on speaker, sneering into the microphone that she needed to pick up her worthless child immediately. Mom responded in the calmest tone I had ever heard, stating we will be there in 1 minute before hanging up. Preston actually laughed out loud, wondering what kind of rusty junk car my parents would drive into the driveway, completely ignorant of my true background. During our entire relationship, Preston had never cared enough to ask about my family history or my parents' past work. He assumed they were just ordinary middle-class retirees living outside Cleveland, ignoring the fact that my grandfather had built a massive logistics network nearly 60 years ago. My parents had raised me with simple values, teaching me that character mattered far more than wealth. I chose to earn my own way in life because I wanted a genuine relationship built on love rather than money, a choice Preston never bothered to understand. Precisely 60 seconds after the phone call ended, the low thunder of heavy engines echoed through our residential street. 6 identical luxury SUVs rolled smoothly into view, stopping neatly along the curb as personal drivers in dark suits stepped out in unison. Preston froze as the center vehicle door opened, revealing my mother stepping out in a sharp navy coat. A uniformed driver approached her respectfully, addressing her by name as he asked if they should begin loading my personal belongings. Preston gaped at the embroidered emblem on the driver jacket, his face losing all color as he recognized the corporate logo. It belonged to the massive parent company that was currently in the process of acquiring his own employer. He turned to me with trembling lips, whispering my maiden name as 2 workers quietly began packing my personal items into storage boxes. He had spent 12 years obsessing over corporate ladder climbing, yet he had never bothered to ask basic questions about the woman sleeping right beside him. Before Preston could process his confusion, another black vehicle pulled up to the curb, and my father stepped out alongside a silver-haired gentleman. Preston gasped as he recognized the second man as the top chief executive officer of his own company. The executive warmly greeted my father, thanking him for meeting with the board to finalize the corporate acquisition. Preston looked back and forth between them, his knees visibly shaking as he realized his entire career was suddenly tied to the family he had just insulted. The executive mentioned that Preston had decent sales numbers, but noted that his department suffered from high turnover and severe employee complaints. Preston tried to apologize to my father, stuttering that he had no idea where I came from, but Dad cut him off softly. Dad reminded him that he never knew because he never cared to ask, choosing instead to judge people solely by superficial appearances. Preston stood alone in the rain, holding his useless papers as he realized he had thrown away the most important thing in his life. I picked up my final box of memories and walked toward the waiting car, declining Preston's frantic offer to help. As we drove away from the suburban neighborhood, a profound sense of relief washed over me, replacing years of self-doubt with deep peace. I had finally stopped shrinking myself to fit a world that was far too small for me. If you enjoyed this emotional story, please hit the subscribe button, check out the video showing on your end screen right now, and comment below to let me know which country you are watching from.